Son Franklin thinks this is the perfect time to reissue his father's book.
Billy Graham's Who's in Charge of a World That Suffers tackles tough questions about troubles and woes. His son Franklin Graham does a new introduction for this just reissued book. He writes, "Suffering is no surprise to the Lord. Jesus warned that we would face uncertainty, persecution, and trouble of every kind. He himself suffered for us."
God, no question, is in charge. But we also know that the world in which we live is a fallen world. And that the God of this age is Satan. And we know that he controls so much of what is going on in the world, the bad things that are going on.
There's so much darkness rising these days. Graham suspects we're beginning to enter the time of the book of Revelation, the end of days.
This is, I think, an exciting time. It's not something we should be afraid of. But we need to know that God is still in charge and that he writes the last pages of history. It's not going to be the Republican Party, the Democratic Party, or the United Nations. The Lord Jesus Christ comes back and establishes his kingdom. And for those that put their faith and trust in him, we know that we will be, our soul will be secure in his hands.
And there will be for eternity. But that certainly doesn't mean Christians are immune from suffering while here on earth.
We're not exempt. We don't live in some kind of bubble. And we are going to go through suffering. And I think this book deals with that. Till Armageddon was the original title. But we all face these Armageddons in our life as we go through life, these storms of life. Jesus himself was in a storm. He was with his disciples out on the Sea of Galilee. And a storm came up suddenly without warning. And it was swamping the boat, sinking.
So his disciples woke Jesus, who commanded the storm be still.
Of course, the wind and the waves is going to obey his voice because he created it. And when we put our faith and trust in him, if we're in his boat, we don't have to worry because his boat doesn't sink. And we just need to make sure we're in his boat.
You can find out how to be sure in the pages of Billy Graham's Who's in Charge of a World That Suffers. In his introduction to the book, Franklin writes, "There is no need to worry, there is no need to wrestle, and there is no need to wonder who is in charge of a world that is suffering. Look to Jesus Christ and live." Paul Strand, CBN News, Washington.